into my life, and my world never looks so bright.
You have entered Boob Tube Boys.
Ew.
I'm Brian Vaughn, and I'm hosting this week. Alongside me are two other fine gentlemen. One of them is Spencer Hendricks. He's the one who gave me the episodes to discuss on the next 2 weeks. Spencer,
Yes,
how
I
are
did.
you?
I am so excited to see what you do with what I did to you.
Van, how the hell are you?
I'm fabulous. I think that's the only way to describe yourself when we're discussing Queer Eye.
That's
We
fair.
are, and that's true. The cat's out of the bag. I mean, we already told you last week. We're covering Queer Eye.
Did you just use the idiom from last week's
I did,
episode?
yes, from our
That's
Patreon
amazing.
episode.
I love that.
We are covering Queer Eye the next 2 weeks. We're doing a little bit of Boob Tube hot potato here, where the hosts pass off episodes to one another, and it's a mystery until we get assigned them. I am debuting this feature
Yeah.
at Spencer's behest.
This was not easy for you. Like,
No.
I had to say, like, we debuted this and I just gave you the hardest thing I could think of. So good job.
It's our first reality show. It's also, I have very little reality show experience as
Yeah.
a viewer, so
Yeah,
that's...
I don't think any of us do, right?
I have a decent amount thanks to who I'm with.
Yeah, Van has the most reality show
I
experience.
hate that that's true, too.
Yeah, it's true by osmosis more than anything, I would say.
Like, I've never sat down to watch a reality show on my own.
Right.
Barring like this. But,
Or River Monsters.
okay, River Monsters true. But I don't know if I would call that a nature show.
Mm-hmm.
Less than a reality to me is about people doing things. And
Or being river monsters.
Or being river monsters. No, I don't know. I just, for whatever reason, anything that's on Animal Planet is not a reality show.
Yeah, I
know
would
what you
agree.
mean.
The format of these, I get why people get sucked in. I like to think I'm better than it, but when I watch a few, it's like I see it. Like you just don't want to stop sometimes because of the whole formula. Just it works.
I had a different reaction, which is that I felt like, how am I going to get through these? Like, to
Really?
a certain degree. Yeah,
That's interesting.
And
I actually liked them.
We'll get to that, and it's very specifically the format more than it's anything, because it's kind of a little bit of a template that you fill
It
in
is.
the details for. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about up top.
Good
we
deal.
covered season 3, episode 7 of the reboot, I guess you would say, or refashioning
Sure.
of Queer Eye. It's available on
Refashioning?
Netflix. Yes.
Did they describe it that way, or did you
That
just
was
come up
all
with it?
me,
I'm kind of
baby.
impressed.
Yeah.
Good job.
Refashioning.
That's accurate too, because how can it be a reboot of a reality show?
Yeah, exactly, because you're not really, you're not casting real life people.
You're not trying to say this is exactly what it was before, except in modern times. It's just
No.
it's an updated version.
And in fact, this is a little bit different. The original show started in 2003, and it had an entirely different cast than the one we're looking at here. The reboot, which is still going, it is getting ready to enter its 6th season. It's been renewed for a 6th. The original ran for 5 seasons.
And of course, they dropped off the For the Straight guy on there.
Yeah, and they
because
did that in
they'll-
the original run.
Oh, they did?
At some
Okay.
point. Yeah, to be more, just kind of give them more options.
Yeah, and I mean,
What?
who cares? It doesn't have to be
Explain
straight
this.
people.
Like they dropped a straight guy.
The show was originally called Queer Eye for the Straight Guy when it
Oh,
debuted.
And it was strictly straight people. It was these gay guys.
Which is what both of our
fixing straight
episodes
people.
are, essentially. But yeah, the guy that they would be counseling would always be straight.
Gotcha. In this case, they might be gay or they might be straight.
Yeah, and
Just opens up more possibilities.
Right, and I believe, that opens up the ability to also counsel a woman,
Sure.
more options for the show.
I
if you're
did
gonna run
notice
more
a few of
seasons.
them had also gay people, but I picked the ones I did for other reasons. I just kind of randomly chose
Mostly that you're a unrepentant homophobe.
them. I actually did it because it was
Why are we all
Faith in
being
Missouri.
assigned terrible traits?
You're the right winger.
And apparently so are you.
Yeah, evidently.
Apparently we're just horrible, horrible folks.
That's right.
Queer Eye is interesting to me in that, okay, so my knowledge of reality shows, and I was curious what it was. What is Queer Eye? How is the format of the show set up? What does it cover? Because when I think about reality shows, I think of, you have self-help shows, you have kind of like fashion shows, you have cooking shows, you have lifestyle shows. There are a lot of kinds of reality shows. And the one thing about Queer Eye is it sort of rolls them all into one ball.
Yeah, I could see that.
And spits it back out, because you have the Fab Five, who are hosts every episode, and they go and counsel someone who has a close relative or friend or loved one who's requested
Who's
that help.
concerned about them.
Yeah.
And they
So-
think these 5 gay guys can fix it all.
Yeah, so the premise essentially sets up, we have 5 experts in different avenues, thus meaning the show can take on different forms. Our 5 experts are Antony Porowski, and he's our food and diet expert. Tan France, he's a fashion expert. Karamo Brown, he's the culture and lifestyle expert / psychologist, I guess. Bobby Berk, he's the home design expert. And Jonathan Van Ness, our grooming and high heels expert.
And quite possibly the gayest human being that has ever existed.
It is very possible.
He's loud and proud.
That is our Fab Five. I wanted to touch on what I was saying about the format of the show with Van, since you've seen the most reality TV. Is this standard, like for a reality show
That's a good
to
question.
kind of do multiple things on the same, 45-minute front?
To an extent, sure. Now, when you were talking, I kind of had an epiphany in that I am leaning a little more that really a lot of those things I have watched have been reality shows, animal shows or cooking shows. You call cooking shows out. I watch a lot of cooking shows.
Yeah.
I never really considered them that. When I think of reality shows, what comes to mind for me are things like Survivor or
Yeah.
The
just
big
that-
hitters, Big Brother,
the just
What's that?
garbage
The Biggest
television.
Loser, the weight loss thing.
Sure, stuff
Road
like that.
Rules.
That always comes to mind. It's people being overly dramatic. 90 Day Fiance is a good example.
Man, the
of current
2002
ones.
Road Rules soundtrack was incredible.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you have it?
Yeah.
You remember when Chris
probably
Barboa wanted
still
to be
do.
on Road Rules, a good friend of ours, and we
We
made
filmed
a video?
I think
Yeah.
it was The Real World.
Oh, that was real.
But see,
That's
they
right.
would do the Real World Road Rules Challenge,
Oh.
which is actually, I think, what this soundtrack was that I had.
Okay, sounds about right.
Yeah.
So in essence, this type of reality show, this subset, really does kind of lean into that, as you said, template where you fill in the blanks. It's the same thing every time. However, you just have to put in a new
Multifaceted
person.
self-help show.
You just do little bits of that here and there. So I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah, I was curious because, I being a little bit of a reality outsider, other than when I was a child, I watched a show where people were trying to become Sports Center anchors.
What was that called?
Dream Job or
I
something?
don't, probably,
I think it was
do you
Dream
remember
Job.
this?
That sounds familiar.
I don't think I watched it, but I remember hearing about it.
I didn't watch it all the way through, but I watched part of it. But I guess I was under the impression that the show would kind of pick a lane and stick to it rather than kind of grazing on different subjects.
I don't know if that sounds like a bad thing though, since
I don't either.
Since
It's
the
kind of
actual
just an
element is already
observation.
bad. Like I think it's they've limited themselves by going to reality show, so I think they did the most. What I was saying when I said the format affected me as much as it could was a lot like when I talked about House. Like,
Yeah.
that's not a show I'm going to watch, but when I have to watch it, like for instance this,
Right.
I feel like what they're doing works for me enough to where it's like I see why you wrote it this way, I see why you did this, and I get the appeal. I'm not going to do it, but I can appreciate.
I see why.
I can appreciate what you were trying to do, and it works for a lot of people.
And I understand, I think, what makes them compulsively watchable and kind of just like a, I don't know, you get an arc. You
Yeah.
get an arc in the 45 minutes of
It's not very
the
believable.
person. No, it's not believable of the person's life improving. And there's something uplifting about seeing something go from bad to better. But that's kind of the next topic I want to talk about before we get into our first episode, which is the nature of reality TV, which is a lot of filming and heavy editing and reshooting scenes that are supposed to be real life to make them more palatable. And that's why we get some really heavy topics covered here where people seem like they're almost just kind of reciting, like a stock answer. And that's going to be standard in reality TV. And it kind of gives that prepackaged feel a further nudge, in my opinion.
Look, if you watch reality shows, you have to know. You can't be
Yes.
so ignorant that you believe that these are real.
I think everyone knows.
Right?
I think that most people know. I think that there are a lot of people who essentially view it as water cooler talk and they're not really concerned with whether it's real or not. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely. It's entertainment.
It's beside the point. It's like you're watching a scripted drama to people who are going in with that mindset.
And to that point, Katie really loves 90 Day Fiance, and I despise
My
it.
sister also does.
Every
or she
person
watches a lot of it.
on
I should
those
say.
shows is a villain. Every last one of them. And that show in particular started out with people legitimately trying to get a fiance who was born overseas and trying to have a relationship. It's not that anymore. It became so popular. Every single person on that show is now trying to get their own spin-off.
Yeah,
And they're trying to make money
I think
off
that
of it.
that's kind of the reality empire breeds that because the demand is there for it. You can have a reality show and spin it off 7 different ways.
I'll give you an example here. Okay, so 90 Day Fiance, there's a guy named Big Ed, and he's this guy who has no neck. He's this, I will call him a hideous monster because he is. I don't want to make fun of people's looks if they're a good person. He is not. He has genuinely been basically he paid a woman off because he raped her. He's
my.
a predator. He is a disgusting man, and we may never see him on the show again because all
hope
this stuff's
not.
come to light. But they might because he's super popular because he's
If the
polarizing.
money's in it.
The other thing, Cameo is now a popular thing where you can pay for a celebrity to do whatever. He charges $80 per Cameo thing, and he has, I figured it up, I don't remember the numbers, but essentially he's made at minimum $80,000 off of Cameo as a fucking monster, as a disgusting, vile human being, and that's what enrages me about reality TV, is people then will do that, because they'll be like, oh, this is funny, I should get Big Ed to say happy birthday to my mom. They do, but you're giving a pedophile, you're giving a pervert, you're giving whatever's wrong with some of these people that. That's not everyone on these shows, but they're all vapid monsters who just do it to be on TV and get an Instagram following and well, this won't be true for much longer, but an OnlyFans account.
Yeah.
Everyone on 90 Day Fiancé has an OnlyFans account. And they're all, quote, normal human beings who are just normal-looking people, but they're all just vapid monsters. Every last one of them.
Which it's kind of like, you know, there's a little bit of a difference between someone who explicitly seeks fame and someone who chooses to follow a passion. So someone who's trying to spin off a reality show that they develop their own catchphrase on versus someone who pursues a life in the arts.
Well, that's just
you're
it.
getting that's why this feels this way.
If it were a reality show, okay, here's what it is. If you're shitty, you become a reality show. If you're real and you're sincere, you become a documentary. I like documentaries.
I see what you're saying.
I
Well,
don't
yeah, I
like
think-
reality shows.
And I think we're all in that boat too, because it's very two different things. Like reality shows, calling it reality show is a lot like how professional wrestling is called professional wrestling.
Right, yeah.
You know, it's not really reality, and that's not really professional in a sense of like you're not competing. So it's kind of like I do think in a very similar way, we all kind of can wink now and understand what we're looking at, whereas with reality shows in the late 90s, I think a lot more people thought they were a lot more reality
Truly
based.
real, yeah.
And then one more thing before we get into the episode, just up top, so I don't go on about it every time I think about it. I will some, I'm sure, which is Queer Eye does have a little bit of what I in my head call, and I'm sure this is a real term, like lifestyle porn of, you know, you can throw money and fashion at any problem and you'll be fine, and kind of a lot of suggesting that the aesthetic qualities of a thing are what makes you happy. And that's not entirely done throughout the show. There are definitely attempts at further insight, but I do think that is the other quality of reality TV that can be very off-putting sometimes, is kind of a set of like, if you attain these things, you will be happy, which is kind of what we've talked about all three on the Patreon episodes and just in general of reality shows often portray easy fixes that aren't there and set kind of like how social media does, like an unrealistic expectation for your life. Yeah.
They're quite hollow, I think is how I would describe them.
That's fair.
So on the surface, it's like, yeah, they cured this guy. They made him
In 7
outgoing.
days. In 7 days.
Yeah. they
Yeah.
didn't.
Also, the other thing that I think about that is there is no easy fix for anything. The only thing that I would, and this is giving them a lot of credit they probably don't deserve, is perhaps it's just instilling the confidence, allows them to make better choices and feel better about maybe taking steps toward what they need to do to be happy. But certainly those things themselves would not fix anything. If you have the confidence, maybe you can fix something in the long term.
And I can totally see that. And I'm also coming at this through my personal lens.
That's me trying to reach and saying maybe it's that. It's not fair to say that that's what they're going for, because there may not be. But that's my one thought.
I feel like part of it for me is it's really hard to trust anything people make money off.
Of course.
You know, and that becomes inherently the difficult
It's
thing.
all of it is very unlikely. Like you don't go in on 7 days and do all this stuff.
No, after 7 days, you actually die if you don't pass the videotape on.
But isn't this the American dream, quote unquote? That's what, old people will tell you. All you need is to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you'll be rich and famous one day.
That's what I really...
That's not what it is.
That's what I even made a note. Like, I was like, I wish, because a lot of it they present as this could happen. I wish they would just completely leave that behind and have like the guy we talk about in the next episode just be ripped in 7 days. Like he's completely ripped. I wish they wouldn't even try to make it realistic and just like, you've been to the gym twice. Look at you.
We remodeled your home and it's like a different house.
a different person
castle.
entirely.
I wish they wouldn't have even tried is the one thing I had.
Well, your
Like,
sister's coming in to see how you look. It's not the same sister.
It's a model.
Well, without further ado, now that I've been on a soapbox for
We've gotten a
entirely
little
too
bit of
long.
that out of the way.
Yeah. We're going to talk about Queer Eye, Season 3, Episode 7, Sloth to Slay.
Yeah.
This was filmed in 2019 in Kansas City, Missouri.
Kansas City.
Both of our episodes were filmed there, which is cool.
I picked that on purpose.
Yeah,
I wanted
well
it
done,
to,
Spencer.
I wanted it to be people that were like us, because they are.
The
Maybe we'll see
reason
Mandy, Brian's sister, in the background,
she
like
might.
peering at the camera.
the famous AKJ 519.
That's right.
The reason these episodes are in Kansas City, by the way, the showrunner David Collins wanted to put some episodes in the Midwest because the first season had been in New York City. The second season focused on the South.
Well, and the synopsis of the show was something along the lines of now the Fab Five are going to go take care of red states.
Yeah.
Like there was
Well,
a
didn't
synopsis
they already do
said
that in the South?
They
If
did,
they were
yeah.
there.
I think, yeah.
I'm
and-
surprised they survived through the South journey.
This is all kind of born out of Collins, the show creator, being from Cincinnati. So he wanted to focus on some areas more similar, which I'm
Well,
sure Kansas City is.
That's
Well,
good
to
for
where
him,
he's
though.
from.
And you said, how did they survive? They went to Kansas City, which it's a big city in Missouri. That's not indicative of a majority of
Well,
Missouri.
I think Spencer might have meant the South.
I did mean the South, but you're
Oh,
right.
yeah.
You're
Because
right.
then
in
but
the South, they probably went to the big cities.
mostly,
yeah, true.
yes.
They're probably in Atlanta.
If you stay in the urban areas, yes, you're right. No matter where you are, it's going to be less dangerous than some of those areas where who knows what they're
where
thinking.
18 people are there and 19 people have guns.
And they're all related,
Yeah, somehow or another.
playing the banjo.
We're going to do this slightly different in that there's no plot in these. These
Not
are
really.
reality shows. So
It's just the progress of what they're doing to this
and
person.
We're going to move forward in that manner, but I'll outlay this episode. Sloth to Slay, a sweet but shy gamer who spent his life in front of a screen, finds the courage to make new friends and find his tribe.
Did either of you have trouble with the title of this? My brain can't. I get it. I understand it, but my brain won't wrap around it because of the words choose. Sloth. What it's supposed to be
Noun
is
to
he was
verb.
sloth-like.
Yeah,
now
that's
he's
what makes it
slaying.
weird.
Yeah, and it's just
He's a
like,
predator now because you know how
Yeah.
I'm going to spoil this because who cares
Oh,
about the
no.
plot. He turns into a lion at the end. He's not a sloth anymore, so they want him to be more aggressive, I guess, more take charge.
He ate the little one too in the end, right? Shane?
Yeah, what is the deal with that? Like the sloth thing was a funny backstory about his life, and they're definitely like they laughed about it, but then by the end he's like, I don't think I'm a sloth anymore. I'm a fucking
gonna go out
lion.
and slay.
Roar!
Yeah.
Like, it's just-
Yeah.
come on, calm
What's wrong
down.
with being a sloth? They only pee once a week.
The story was funny. He turned his neck slowly, and they called him a sloth. Like, don't get rid of that story.
And that is, in fact, how our protagonist, Thomas, got his nickname of Sloth.
I like Thomas. He's I'd like to be friends with Thomas.
I'd play a game with him.
Well, the episode starts out, we get our little Kansas City skyline, and we see the Fab Five, who we've introduced, boarding
bus.
a party bus to discuss their next project, and that is Thomas. It's gorgeous Thomas's 21st birthday. We get a title card, our Fab Five do a little shuffle dance, and then we get a rundown of Thomas, which is how all of these episodes start.
Yes.
We get to kind of know Thomas.
It's a little creepy.
And
They
we
sit
get
their
to,
scouts after Thomas.
yeah, we get to know why
The Fab Five
Queer
have
Eye guys
people.
are on his case. So Jonathan runs down a little bit of our details on our man Thomas. He's 21 years old, or he's about to turn 21. He's 5'5", 175. Jonathan says weight doesn't matter, it's just a number. And he lives with his sister in Kansas City. He's very shy. He's very into gaming and anime and Japanese culture. And honestly, he doesn't have a lot of friends. He works as an IT guy at his college. His sister, Chrissy, has a lot of friends and is very outgoing. Tries to invite Thomas along a lot of the time, but he just wants to stay in and play games. So she's a little worried because she might want to leave Missouri at some point, and she wants Thomas to be self-sufficient. Their mom died whenever Thomas was 11. So he's had a rough go of it since then. It's kind of intimated throughout the episode that he had more personality before the death of his mother and then kind of went inward after that happened. Thomas mentions also variant MMORPGs.
Like World of Warcraft or
yeah.
Star Wars.
Oh, he
the
loves
Old
WoW.
Republic.
He even
Yes.
says it himself later.
Did either of you feel when they started discussing him that a little bit like antagonistic towards him, being like, well, maybe that's just what he wants to do?
Yeah, I felt that,
That was my
both
first
of these
instinct.
episodes to a degree.
I actually put on my notes that I don't understand why they're throwing an openly antisocial person a party. That's
Yeah,
mean.
that
That's
is
really mean.
to me, when we meet Thomas, we find out he's very awkward. And I don't mean that antagonistic.
No, he's nice. He just doesn't want all that interaction.
Yeah, and I feel like the first thing would be maybe some lower grade socializing, but That's not how this goes.
Instead of throwing him into an anime convention,
let's
and a party.
pretend you're an extrovert, Thomas. That's what they all do. I hate it.
Let me get this out of the way at the top. This is no. I want to be serious. I think I'm going to state the obvious and say that the three of us don't give two fucking shits if you're gay. We don't care.
Not at all.
No.
It is. I do not judge a person by their sexuality, the color of their skin, et cetera, et cetera. That's stupid. That's tribalism that's caused that, if we look at it in the history of humankind. And I think it's absolutely fucking stupid. Now, we're going to make fun of how gay some of these guys are. I'll speak for myself. I'm going to make fun of how gay some of these guys are. Because it's funny to me. It's not a negative that they're gay. It's funny how gay they can be at times. In particular, Jonathan Van Ness.
Jonathan Van Ness, he's
gay.
He doesn't give a shit.
He's too much for me. And not because he's gay, because he's so extroverted.
Yeah, because
it's too fucking
I agree.
much.
Extroverts are the problem. That's the issue.
I will judge a person.
I agree 100%. If you don't have the sensitivity to realize that not everyone is an extrovert, that is bad. That is a weakness on your part.
And the other four in the cast, fine. I would get along great with them.
Yeah, we'll see.
For the most part. But Jonathan Van Ness, I can't handle it. He's too much for me.
We're about to get a big spoonful of Jonathan.
Oh, God.
Right away, because now everybody's going to meet. We know about Thomas, and Thomas is going to meet the Fab Five.
This is really funny, though, because they're basically hijacking his work route on the bus, so they're not going to let him go to work.
What if they didn't tell the work in advance?
That's what I was wondering. Is he going to get fired? Like they just like, you're not going to work. I'm sorry. I'm talking as Jonathan Van Ness right now. You're not going to work today. You're coming to party with us. And it's like, well, I kind of didn't tell my job this, so what are we going to do about that?
Where
thought that
were
was
you,
weird.
Thomas? Oh, these four gay guys. They kidnapped me on their party bus, and we did this whole thing.
Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
The Fab Five, as soon as Thomas boards their party bus, we assume that Chrissy, his sister, who contacted the Fab Five, kind of helped alongside the Fab Five, organize this plan for Thomas to get on the bus. So he gets on the bus, the Fab Five spring into action from behind the bus seats and surprise Thomas.
They frighten the hell out of this guy.
And Thomas, his facial expression for his part looks probably as elastic as it could, in which he's kind of surprised and kind of excited, but mostly still just looks the same.
Well, he looks like a little chia pet.
Yeah. And as you guys said, Thomas was supposed to go to work, and the Fab Five were like, no, I guess not.
Playing hooky today, I think is what one of them says.
Yeah. Well, and that's when, there's a little bit of confusion with Thomas, but Karamo tells him what's up and essentially unveils the show's entire premise.
Where would you normally be going right now?
I'd be going to work.
Yeah?
Not today, honey. Hooky.
You're hanging with 5 gay guys. It's the best thing you could do.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Queer Eye is. It's like you hang out with 5 gay guys for a week, and they make your life better.
That was Jonathan who said, not today, honey, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I thought it had to have been.
Yeah, it has to have been. So that's Karamo telling us that this is the plan for the day. So they take the party bus back to Thomas and Chrissy's house. And this is kind of where the Fab Five are going to get a lay of the land, see what Thomas's life is
go
like.
Through their underwear drawers.
That's what they first do, is they rifle through Thomas's drawers through the whole house. They actually, I would assume, take urine and semen samples. I'm really, really not sure. They dust for fingerprints. They turn on a black light. They call in blood spatter experts.
They sterilize the room.
It was a little disconcerting, all 5 of them rummaging through everything while Thomas and Chrissy are kind of like, hello.
That's sensory overload for me. If that springs up on me, 5 guys we're going to do this. I could have fun, but you've just interrupted my whole schedule. I'm going to be pissed.
Someone calls the Fab Five on you guys. What's the weirdest thing they're finding when they rifle through your drawers?
Nothing I want to talk about on this show.
No, I'm pretty boring. They wouldn't find anything good. It would just be stuff that made me look worse as a person. Like, why is this piece of bread from 2012 in here?
I would just have to hope they didn't read any of my journals. That would be the big thing that they
Karamo might too. He might be like,
would.
You know what? We need to talk about this later.
He'd be like, I noticed on October 13th of 2020.
He's got a whole notepad of it.
Oh, I thought the first thing that came to my mind when we were learning about these different guys, because they each have a niche. Mm-hmm. There's with Jonathan, the exorbitant
Jonathan's
one.
the grooming expert.
He's the grooming gay.
He would groom you so good.
Tan France is the
He's
clothing
the
gay.
Yeah, and we went through it up top. Yeah, kind of going through. They all 5 have their area of expertise, and they seem to also collaborate some.
Yeah. So what it made me think of was like a Final Fantasy game from the 90s where it's like choose your class.
Choose your party.
Like
also.
I'm the White Wizard.
You've added Tan France to your party.
Well, there's our bard.
Oh, Tan's been murdered by an orc.
I wish that was the game.
Someone should make that. I'd play the hell out of that.
I would
That'd be
too.
fun.
That sounds fun. So yeah, the Fab Five, they're still going through the house. They also go through the house with Thomas to get kind of some answers out of him at this point. They're checking Thomas's closet. Tan notices Thomas wears only baggy clothes. He must be self-conscious about his body
And
a little bit.
he's very forthcoming about that. He's like, yeah, I don't like my weight.
And Thomas says that. He's like, I don't really like my weight. I'm not the thinnest of guys. And that's when Tan asks him who his style icon is, and Thomas says it's Donald Glover, and he answers immediately.
Danny Glover, sorry.
Oh, it's Danny Glover from Shooter specifically. That's like his very specific fashion icon. So Tan decides they'll work backwards from that. We're going with Donald Glover. You won't be exactly like Donald Glover when we get done because you're not super attractive and famous, but we can kind of go off that template.
I wish he would have said that.
That would have been awesome. We also saw at some point in the house we realized that our Fab Five have made a sloth cake for Thomas, which looks pretty cool.
One of them ate the sloth.
Yeah, and
piece,
then
though.
Jonathan specifically starts eating the piece that was for Thomas.
Son of a bitch.
I
See,
think
this is why I don't like him.
They mostly went there for the cake at that point. Why are they so excited? We cooked you this, but we're going to eat it.
And it's honestly for us more than anything. Bobby also takes Thomas outside. They kind of look at the backyard, and Bobby says, look, it might be easier to have friends over if you had a space to entertain them, which Chrissy and Thomas have a nice house. It's a nice little house.
It is.
With plenty of lawn space and everything, too. I don't think anyone would be off-put going there.
No, but the thing here is you immediately figure out what they're all going to offer, and renovating the backyard, which is what Bobby's kind of suggesting here. What does that make the other people's services here compared to that? He's like, I'm going to fix your house. And Jonathan's like, I'm going to give you a haircut. And Tan's like, I'll find you a better outfit.
Ramo's like, I'm going to have a conversation.
and then Bobby's like, no, I'm actually going to do thousands of dollars of work to your house. It's like, well, I'm going to ignore the rest of you and just Bobby is
And
what
this all
matters.
seems really obvious toward the end of the episode when everyone sort of unveils what they've done for
It's
Thomas.
really just immediately striking like these people are talking about very different services here.
Well, there's a show I used to watch called Restaurant Impossible. Have either of you seen that?
No.
All right, so the host of it is this British guy. He's this real big British chef, and he lied about his resume when he originally got the show. He's like, oh, I've cooked for the Queen. He hadn't. He just straight up lied. They put him on the air. People found out about it. They fired him.
Wait,
and
was
then-
he not actually British also or something?
No, Robert Irvine. He is British.
I'm thinking of something different then.
But he...
Gordon Ramsay, he's not actually British.
eventually, the audience was like, no, we don't want to watch a show unless Robert Irvine's on it. So they just brought him back. But that show, basically, what it does is somebody nominates their local friend's restaurant or whatever that's struggling. He comes in, fixes the quote unquote, fixes the menu, does remodeling, does a bunch of stuff. Now, the remodeling's what I want to focus on because he's like, now my budget for this to remodel your entire restaurant is $300 or what? It's absurd. They don't fix anything.
Here are some streamers.
And every single person, if you went back and look online to what the restaurant said about the end result, they're like, oh, it sucked. They didn't really do anything for me. It's just we needed the TV time.
So it
is
wasn't
what
like Queer Eye where they just remodel your whole house.
That's just it. These guys have tens of thousands of dollars of budget, and it was mind-blowing for me to see how much they put into it. And I don't know if it's just Netflix paying for it or where
I don't know where the
comes
money
from
comes
or what,
from.
but it's fascinating.
I will say they have shows on HGTV that I briefly caught up in like 5 years ago where that's the whole show is they just go into a house and they say, oh, look at all this work that needs to be done. Like Joanna Gaines is huge on that. I forget what that show is
Property
called.
Brothers and
yes,
stuff like that.
Yes, those shows. Queer Eye actually incorporated that entire show in addition to everything else they're doing, which is what you were talking about, which is where they're kind of
it's like a
incorporating
pastiche almost.
a whole bunch of concepts of reality TV into one. So you get the benefit of Property Brothers, of whatever that Fixer Upper is what Joanna Gaines' show is. And you're also getting the psychological counseling from Karamo, and you learn to cook from Anthony. You know, all kinds of stuff. I have
the
to look
Fab
at
Five, they're the total package.
No, it's a good deal, I imagine.
So as we're kind of wrapping up at Thomas and Chrissy's house, we get our destination for the episode, which is at the end of the week, Thomas is going to have a birthday party at a bar/arcade, and that's kind of what we're headed toward. We want Thomas ready for that social experience.
Ugh.
What was the thing called, too? It was a clever pun. Maybe.
It had a clever name.
Maybe
and I
it was
forgot.
Up, Down, or something like
Barcade?
that.
I got
Barcade,
It could
yes,
be
but-
because I know there are some. I don't know if it's chain or not, just called Barcade. And then we have
one here.
one or two here. One of which is called 1984.
There
and
was
then there
just
might
a
be
pun
one here
name.
called Barcade also.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard the name before.
But that's what it is. That's the kind of place that it is.
Pretty cool.
It's an
Yeah.
arcade where you can drink.
I mean, that
I
sounds
call
like
that
a
my
winner.
living room.
Yeah, I know. Me too. And now we get another title card. It says Day 2, Ready Player One. What are the Fab Five gonna do? What's their plan for Thomas? Well, they each have a plan. Anthony, who is our food expert, discusses making Thomas into a force in the kitchen. Bobby says he wants to improve Thomas's teenager room and give him more of a presence in the whole home.
And redecorate the entire house.
Right. Jonathan, he wants Thomas to put more effort into grooming, but look like he didn't.
Well, he needs to do a little bit of effort. Like, and I like Thomas.
I love Thomas.
He has the definition, and he doesn't fit the term that we use now of neckbeard.
yes,
He's
yes.
straight up.
Yeah.
That's
It's-
all he has is the
it's very
neckbeard. It's,
pubic.
bad.
It's
Yeah.
wispy. Yeah,
People
when
have
they-
gotten really confused about what neckbeard means. What it means is you can't grow facial hair for shit, and you have like spirally gross facial hair only on your neck.
Yes.
Yeah, and they did.
And now people think if you grow facial hair that extends past your fucking jawline, they go neck beard, and it's like, no, I really can grow a beard.
And of course, the term of neckbeard now describes the good guy who's like, girls
Yeah.
don't date
Like
good
incels.
guys like me. The incel,
Yeah.
that's a neckbeard.
They did a
That's
great-
not what this guy.
Yeah, they're all wrapped into one thing. It's like how if you have the name Karen now, I feel really bad.
Oh
for you.
yeah, but why would you have that name? Is
Well,
a
you're
good
over
question.
50. That'd be the main way you'd have
I
it.
thought they did a really good job. Well, I'm sure we'll discuss this transformation later, which is totally believable. The fact that they did shave most of it and leave just the little specks on
Yeah,
his
they did a
face,
good job.
that's what you should have if you can't grow facial hair, is like spots here and there in your face. That's fine. If you're unshaven a little bit, that's okay. If you're fully unshaven when you can't grow it, that just looks gross. And that's what Thomas was doing.
As for our other two experts, Tan, who's our fashion expert,
Oh man.
well, he thinks Thomas should show off his dormant personality through his fashion and clothing.
It's one way to
And
do it.
Karamo, he wants Thomas to be on his own, confident, expressing his inner self.
I think
more.
Karamo's full of shit.
He might be.
Karama's your least favorite. That's what I'm gathering.
I feel like he's there to level with them. Like, hey, I know all these other guys are acting all gay and stuff, but listen, I'm ripped, I'm black. Listen to me. I
like
know
the
what
Dodgers.
I'm talking about. I just don't believe
He wears a
anything he says.
Dodgers
Dodgers
hat
hat,
in
yeah.
both episodes, I know.
I think he's probably a great guy, but his role that he plays is not working for me. No,
I don't do anything compared to the other two.
I'm just going to talk at you.
Well, let's pretend we're going to Planet Sun, and let's talk about Tan for a minute. Van is shaking his head right now.
That
Good.
was. I like
Good.
Spencer's segues better, but that was pretty good.
Tan is walking alongside Thomas. They're going to go look at some clothes. Let's get Thomas all glovered up.
Tan's accent isn't real, right?
I don't think so.
Nothing about Tan looks real at all.
He's just, we discussed, we think he has an accent, but he dials it up because at times I hear Scottish, at times I hear Welsh, at times I hear British. It's
And we
too
may
much.
be totally wrong, but it does seem over accentuated. I mean,
He seems like a
who
caricature
knows?
of a person, honestly. He
Sure.
does.
With the hair.
And I do
everything.
think I would like to also say I think that that's part of your job. If you're the host of a
Absolutely.
reality show,
Turn it up to
Absolutely.
11.
yeah, just go all the way.
I doubt that he did that in his own.
No, I don't think so either. Thomas, we get some interesting details I wanted to mention that I just noticed, which is he used to work at Legoland, which I think would be cool if you got free Legos, which for some reason recently I've wanted to get some of. I don't know what that's about.
That
You have
could be
your own
cool.
place. You could
Yeah, I
leave
could-
them everywhere.
Yeah, I could make a Mario castle. My dad couldn't say shit.
He couldn't step on him at all.
I also, the other note I had, because I was just thinking, like, as they're going to this, I felt a little inner anxiety of going into a clothing store with a fashion expert, just seeing it. And then it occurred to me, is this Thomas's actual birthday?
Oh, I
This
think
would
it is.
suck. Like, if my sister made me do this on my birthday.
That's my whole thought. Is this whole thing is cruel if Thomas weren't.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
he's
what
so-
you said earlier, Spencer,
he's
it's
so,
true.
He's so appreciative of it all. He's like, sure, let's do this. And it's like, if it were me, I'd be like, how dare you? What have you done?
What
This
gives
is-
you the right?
This is the meanest thing anyone's ever done to me.
Well, we've only watched 2 episodes, and both of them have that in common in that the person we're talking about is psyched to do this. And I wonder
Despite
if
that
they,
it's upending their entire
Yeah.
existence.
I wonder if it's pre-screened, like if there's
Well,
someone who has
no,
any
obviously
sort
not.
of that. Well,
Obviously
yeah.
not.
It has to be,
But
right?
any sort
Like-
of trepidation, they're like, okay, we're not going to do it. You have to be pumped about this.
Yeah, and I think Thomas gets as pumped as his little heart allows him.
I wonder if there are some where they try to fight the Fab Five. Like they're like, "Fuck you, get out of my house!"
Physically, then fighting them.
I knew
Yes.
we shouldn't have gone to Ryden's house.
And then maybe one of them takes over the role of like negotiator. I don't know, like they use a bullhorn.
The fashion expert, the negotiator.
It's not
and it's like
fucking-
Kevin Spacey and Samuel L. Jackson. I don't remember which one was the negotiator and the
I
negotiator.
think it was-
I know which one of them is a pedophile.
Oh, it was Kevin Spacey.
Was he the negotiator?
Yeah, he had the bullhorn. He was like, Samuel L. Jackson, come out here and talk.
My dad fucking loved that movie.
That
by the
movie
way.
sucked. I wanted to like
guarantee it did. When I was 13, because that's exactly when it came out.
That's when I watched it?
Yeah, I thought it was good.
I
was
knew
into
immediately.
it.
I was like, I should like this, but it sucks.
I liked it in like a Lethal Weapon sense, although it's not fun like Lethal Weapon.
No.
I know
haven't
it.
seen
Not
The
like,
Negotiator, but I can
Well,
tell you
don't.
that Obi-Wan Kenobi's nickname is The Negotiator because he prefers to talk rather than fight.
Which is true. Oh, Ben.
See, I lead with the action. I'm not a talker. I like to fight.
You whip out your lightsaber and start hacking.
That's right.
You know who else leads with action? Tan. He pulls a bunch of clothes off racks. He says horizontal stripes aren't the monster you all make them out to be, and you
I
can
don't
pull them
know.
off,
I think I
Thomas.
agree with the stereotype there that you shouldn't wear horizontal stripes. You shouldn't wear horizontal stripes if you're like, wider than you are tall.
You shouldn't wear them if you're not
Ever?
the Hamburglar.
This is also the first time Thomas explicitly admits that his personality has kind of gone inward since the death of his mother.
It seems like a hard thing to admit on the spot.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost as if it was pre-discussed. And Tan wants him, again, to bring that out of himself, his personality, via clothing, which is not how I would want to do it.
You know, as the one
It is
person
an
here
option.
without a dead parent, I have to ask both of you, did that impact, and this is serious, did that
This is
impact
serious.
you,
No.
Brian?
No, I was 25, so
Sure, okay.
No,
I was
I don't.
kind of different for me.
That was why.
I mean, it impacted me in plenty of ways.
Sure, but fashion.
But my personality did not go dormant.
Well, that's it,
As
personality.
you've
That's
all
what I mean.
That's
seen
the big thing,
firsthand,
yes.
it's still here.
Yeah, well, and yeah, I think the element there is what fell flat for me. Is I think a lot of people are supposed to sympathize with Thomas. Is if you can't understand an introvert, understand that he lost his mom. It's like he was an introvert anyway, so I think he just agreed with that narrative that yeah, you know what,
That's
you're right,
interesting.
you're right.
Yeah.
I haven't been the same since my mom died. There's nothing wrong with what Thomas was. There's nothing wrong with what either of the people we talk about in these episodes are. I kept making those notes. These people are fine. There's nothing they're doing wrong. They're just coming in and they're like dressing up their extra shit. But they're good people. They're nice people.
Yeah,
And I don't
and
think
of
anything.
course, diet and exercise helps.
Of course, that's a universal advice. Yeah, I felt like Thomas was just kind of going along with that. So no, I don't agree that that's why he was an introvert at all.
Yeah, and I think there's the temptation a lot of times, as we all know, if you're more reserved or introverted or don't partake in a lot of social things, like a lot of time to yourself, people think there's something wrong, and you need something to point at,
Right.
an activating event, and sometimes that's just not true at all.
Well, we're pattern-oriented as a species, so
Yeah.
we look for the reason. And it could be with him, it was during his formative years. So it could just be he got older. He got through puberty or
Right.
whatever it may be. That's all it was.
Yeah,
And he went
there's
along
any
with
number
it
of
because enough
explanation.
people told him that's what it was. So he's like, sure, yeah, it's because my mom died. It's
Yeah, and he got used to using that. I mean, there's really no telling, but you hope things get better for Thomas. He's still young too. He's only 21, so who knows? At this point, Chrissy shows up. She sees these outfits. She sees this progress. And she's already glad she hired, or, I don't know, like put up the Fab Five signal in the
I don't know
sky.
how that works. Yeah, I don't
What-
know.
whatever
I think
you have to do.
Chrissy seems likable and has good intentions. She
I
doesn't
like
seem.
Chrissy.
She
Yeah, I
doesn't
do
seem like
too.
a bad.
I also feel like
sister.
she'd be fun, like to hang out
I
with.
actually really liked her. Like I was when I was watching her, I was kind of like, I love Chrissy. I want to hang
Yeah.
out with her.
Yeah, she'd be great. Let's have her on the podcast.
I
sometime.
wish.
Chrissy loves the outfits. Thomas tries on a couple. He's got a fancy one with a leopard jacket and a gray
Ooh,
shirt,
that's
dark
too loud for
pants,
me.
some slick ass shoes. He's also got a more casual one with a striped shirt, jeans, and a kimono that Tan tries to sell before he even.
My
he's like, I
God.
know what you're gonna say is kind of how he approaches saying, "Here's a
put-
kimono."
I put a note. I'm not wearing a kimono.
No one should, unless you're a geisha. You
I
do
will
not
say
need to
this
be
though:
wearing a
Thomas
kimono.
nervously loves it.
He does.
You can tell his eyes kind of light up because I mean he is into Japanese culture.
I can't
Yeah.
pull that off. There's no way, and I don't think most people could. That's a weird thing.
I mean, I'd love to have a kimono. I would never wear it in public, but it'd be fun to be like do a Boob Tube Boys episode where I
Yeah.
just have a kimono
I
on.
wish you would. Yeah.
Give it time.
Yeah, you of all people, it will probably happen to where you're in costume for another episode, just as you became in costume to announce Renegade to us.
You did do that.
After we're done clothes shopping, it's time for Anthony to take Thomas to the Rock Hill Grill, which is actually one of Chrissy's favorite restaurants, despite the fact Thomas has never been there. The goal here is Anthony is going to teach Thomas how to cook food that you could only afford to cook once every 6 months.
I was gonna say, like, how is this useful? It's expensive ingredients. It's one meal. You're not really showing him anything of long-lasting value.
No, the key here is we're going to get big, admittedly delicious-looking cuts of steak.
It looks great.
And we're going to make Brussels sprouts. And yeah, they smell like piss, but they don't have to.
Well,
And
they were worried because he was going to have tater tot poisoning, apparently.
Yeah.
Tater tots
that's
are
all he
awesome,
ate.
by the way.
They're
But
I
good.
am so glad that you brought that up, Van. We do also find out earlier in the episode that tater tots in various form are all that Thomas eats.
Veggie tots and regular tater tots.
which sounds great. I think it sounds delicious.
As a person who has tater tots in his freezer right now, I like them, but I couldn't eat them as the main entree all the time.
Which you prefer,
Forever.
fries or tots? Both.
well, you're not so busy gaming like he is.
No,
you know?
that's true.
He needs to pop them in his mouth while he's gaming.
I am more of a fry guy,
Spencer?
I would say
depending
probably
on the fry.
texture matters a lot, but I typically think fries are more versatile.
Fries, I prefer. Here's what I've always said, and this makes no sense. Tater tots have too much tater and not enough tot.
It doesn't
And
make
so
sense.
I like
but
them
I
every
like
now
it.
and then. But yeah,
The thing
just
about
not
tater
often.
tots is you
They're
really
situational.
you have to get them crispy, in my opinion, for them to work.
You don't want a mushy tater tot
No.
at all.
And then,
No.
as we discussed, by the way, on the Patreon episodes, available on patreon.com/Bootu Inc. for just
Well
$2 a month
done.
or more.
Smooth as silk today, guys.
Brian asked us some quizzes about, our different personalities, about fashion, cooking, etc. Mentioned that I like to cook, and I'm fairly good at cooking. What I saw this as someone who likes to cook and cook steak somewhat regularly. If you're teaching someone to cook steak, you do not give them those 2-inch
No.
thick cuts because they're not going to cook them right.
What they're going to do is burn the outside of it, and the
they'll
middle will be
raw,
uncooked.
like bloody raw. You give
That's
them a
what I did the
thin
first
steak.
time I tried because I didn't know.
And then the other thing they do on this show is they bring the person to their kitchen, their show kitchen or whatever.
It's at an actual restaurant. They
At a
go into a
restaurant.
foreign kitchen that has every resource you could ever want and all the space you would need.
Worst possible decision. Number one, they have burners, fire, gas grills. Amazing to cook with. Easier to cook with. No one has them at home. Like you have electric ranges at home, which cook differently. They have the best pots and pans. They have the best equipment. If you're teaching someone to cook on that, when they get home and try it, they're going to screw it up.
Learn to work in your own space with
mostly-
ingredients within your means.
It's mostly Anthony trying to show off. 'cause,
I really
like,
think
he,
so,
he
yeah.
really was. He was really showing his chef flair. Like he's sad he doesn't have his
And-
own reality chef show.
Anthony is the one of the Fab Five member I feel most likely to commit murder. For some reason, there's something just like about him where he's very passionate about food in a disarming way sometimes.
I called him James Franco.
He's
thought
got a
it-
little bit of James
He
Franco.
does, he does.
seems a little dangerous.
I think
don't know why.
I think he knows that and he's leaning into it. Like he's
Yeah.
got super short sleeves when he's cooking. You can see all of his veins and his muscles, and it's
I
just.
think for me it's the sunken in eyes or something. He looks a little like nocturnal.
I think he's just trying too hard, is what I'm going
He
for.
might
Like
be.
what I thought there was that it was kind of weird that he asked Thomas what vegetables he doesn't like.
and
Thomas
then said, "Let's make those."
Yes, he had so many options because Thomas said,
Let's flip the
I
script,
like
Thomas."
I like vegetables, but I don't like Brussels sprouts. He's like, well, we're gonna make Brussels sprouts. We're gonna make you like Brussels. Like, no,
We're gonna go from Brussels sprouts to Brussels. Wow.
let's work on like what he does like because he likes a lot of vegetables. And that was a very kind of sociopathic thing that Anthony did there. He's like, let's do the one thing you hate.
Well, we're not done with sociopathic activities, as next
I hope
Thomas heads to ROKC, a rock climbing center with Karamo.
This sounds so awful.
It is even worse than we've described it so far. And Thomas is like groaning in pain the whole time. He seems like really uncomfortable. He's like, oh no, oh no, oh no.
It's literally like if you took Steven from Steven Universe and was like, oh, let's go play football for 6 hours. That's what you're doing in this scenario.
Yeah, and we get some shots of Thomas kind of slowly ambling up the pegs on the wall as Karamo stretches as hard as someone could stretch to make a metaphor out of climbing walls and walls building up in mines.
It doesn't work.
And I gotta tell you guys, I was brought way back to John Jacobs of the Power Team when it came to the flimsiness of these walls and breaking down walls metaphors.
I feel like he knew it was terrible, and he even said, like, you guys know me, I love a metaphor.
You guys know me, I just keep rambling.
That was the part where I was just having a difficult time listening to anything Karamo said.
And this is all just because Karamo wanted to go rock climbing, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I believe it. He's ripped.
Karamo eventually climbs alongside Thomas to make him feel better, which is how we know Karamo's a good guy.
You know, screaming support the whole way, just like everyone loves.
In his members-only jacket or whatever he's got going on there. And it's at this point, Spencer just held up what looks like a police lineup of the Fab Five.
Well, let me take a moment to explain this, because, Brian, what we do is I do most of the editing and so on and so forth of the episodes. I will have the person who's hosting send me audio clips from the episodes we just watched that I can put in the show. So they send me timestamps, etc. Brian did so with a little description of what he wants, and it would be, Karamo wants this, says this to Anthony. I don't know any of their names. So what I did is I found a picture of all 5 of them. I put it in Photoshop, and I wrote their names over them. Now, what I want to point out is that I legit Googled what is the gayest font. And the internet came up with bubblegum. And that's what this is. So I wanted to put the gayest font on here to
I thought it was
support
very
them.
tasteful.
I liked it too. I thought it was fun.
So that basically is what I've
His name
used.
is seriously Tan France.
Tan
France.
France, yeah. Which is what you call which is what you call France in the summertime.
It's better the second time through.
Yeah, it always is. All things are, right? Woo! So, after the rock climbing's done, I guess everybody's just all fixed up, aren't they?
There you go. To the top. You made it. Let me tell you something. You are no sloth.
I need to find a new spirit animal.
Sloths do not move this fast up a wall and don't move this confidently up a wall.
This is awesome.
All the nerves and anxiety he had, they're gone. When you look at Thomas, you would have thought, oh, he's going to be out of breath. He's not going to be able to do this. Thomas is like, no, 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 no. Not today, Satan. I'm going to...
Because every sloth goes to hell. We know that.
And
we
then
know.
fucking beats the shit out of Satan, which is the most metal thing you can do.
I like how, too, he's like, you look at Thomas, he's a fat piece of shit. You didn't think he could get up that wall, but he did.
My favorite part of it is how Karamo takes 9 victory laps for having Thomas climb a rock wall, and then he's like, hold on, though. We need to go to one of those abandoned rooms from the movie 7. And that's where we go. Because after rock climbing, I don't know where this room is, if it's in the rock climbing center. Thomas gets led by Karamo up some stairs to a brick wall, dark room full of just crates and boxes. And this is where we get more of Karamo just talking out his ass.
This is the weirdest scene in the whole show
It
to
is.
me.
You know, it looks like that place in Walker where they did the drug deal and they threw people through just empty boxes and barrels.
The steam factory.
We make steam here.
I've worked 40 years. It's a steam factory, but they're closing it down next month.
They've made so much money selling steam,
And
I
steam.
built with my own 2 hands.
Building steam.
I hope the
man.
steam industry sticks around forever.
I've heard a lot of kids talking about the summer steam sale. I get a sense it might be something different. But yeah, I don't know what this is. Karamo basically has Thomas play a game of human-sized Jenga where he stacks wooden crates, knocks him over, and goes, I'm ferocious and it's cool, my mom's dead.
Every single problem he has is an extra crate, I guess. And like, we pulled that up and we're like, oh shit, Thomas, did you realize that you have a lot of stress in your life and you didn't know it until you had crates?
Look at all
to the
7 of your
ceiling?
crates.
I'm 6'5", Thomas, and I can barely see you because you're 5'5".
How big would your crate pile be, Spencer? Mine would be massive.
I mean, if we had to do it Karamo's way, I don't think I'd stop. Like, I mean, that's not going to... And also, knocking them over is not going to fix it. Karamo's thing is stupid.
Yeah, I mean, Karamo just kind of rambles about more wall and building and tearing down stuff. And then he Then I don't remember if prompted or not. Thomas,
Gorbachev.
Damn it! I was just doing that.
that's in my notes too.
Mr. Karamo, tear down this wall.
And Thomas does tear down the wall by pushing it,
And it helps him so much.
and it's the least amount of
carried.
force I think you could put into it and push it over.
He's just going along with this shit and be like, okay, let's get
He
this
knows
over
the
with.
role he's supposed to play.
Yeah.
Thomas then steps on one of the crates and says, "I beat my mom," or something. And then
Fuck my mom, I hate
and then
her.
Karamo just kind of nods like, "I rule, I fixed this person wholly." And that's when we move to day 3. And it's kind of what you think. In this scene, well, first off, we get a little bit of grooming. Jonathan takes Thomas into a salon because it's time to gussy up the old internet friend Thomas.
If you thought Thomas was overwhelmed at this point, just wait until
Yeah.
from now on.
So Jonathan waltzes in his hair-cutting smock and high heels. He says, "I fucking love cutting hair in high heels. What makes you feel like this, Thomas?" And Thomas, talks about loving going to work. Yeah. So I know Thomas allegedly has this dormant personality. But does he?
Yeah, he might just be an empty shell.
I
Just,
wonder.
that's harsh.
Well, I think he just needs a lot more than 1 week of gay stuff. I think he needs to
a
go
lot
to
more
a
than
therapist.
1 week of anything. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not going to take 1 week.
Yeah.
It never could. But what I like about Thomas is that he does seem to be mostly okay. Like mentally.
No, he seems
speaking.
like a good guy, and he's getting there.
Boring, sure, but
Yeah.
like they're looking at this. This is an existential crisis, and really, it's just that he is satisfied playing games and going to work every day. So they treated this like it was an emergency, like a mental health emergency, that it just wasn't, in my opinion. That's just how I read it.
I think it is a mental health emergency, but one they're not it's.
They're not
like
fixing it at all.
I don't think anything they're doing really
No,
addresses
no.
it.
And if they did, how would it be 7 days of a
Yeah.
process? What do you think the emergency with Thomas is, though?
I think he's super depressed. Like, I just kind of from the stuff he says of like, I just don't feel like doing anything different, and like that kind of stuff. But I don't think, as a depressive introvert, I don't think being yelled at to go outside and make friends is probably the answer.
You climb one wall and boom, you're cured. That's it. That's all it
and
takes.
again, if this all really did help Thomas, fuck yeah.
Absolutely.
It just
How could
seemed
it
like
have,
this
though?
pushing over some crates and standing on one and claiming you're Lion King isn't going to do it.
All right. So we'll take the whole thing where he climbs the wall and he pushes over the boxes, and instead we put Working Man from that Chuck Norris.
Well,
Law
now
Firm
it
thing.
fixes it.
Now it fixes
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah, I
right? That's
believe
all
it.
it takes.
I
It
believe
also probably increases the amount of Netflix subscriptions.
All right. Let me ask this.
Oh, no.
Do the Fab Five do a better job fixing Thomas than the Power Team would do fixing Thomas?
Yes.
Really?
They didn't send him to church camp, so...
They didn't even pick anything up on this show.
Well, that's true. There were no ice walls that were head-butted through.
I didn't hear their size and weight ever given.
I feel like it's about the same. It's fun for
It's
the moment,
worthless,
you know.
yeah.
You know what I wouldn't mind hearing right now? So Thomas isn't fixed all the way yet. But let's take a break and see if he gets fixed on the other side. During the salon conversation with Jonathan, we also find out that Thomas has never been kissed. He's never been in a relationship. And Jonathan shows Thomas how to sponge curl his
How to
hair
kiss.
and and talks about a lot of etiquette and a lot of grooming. But the part of this scene that I actually really liked is when Jonathan very emphatically is like, it's fine that you're single, which I don't think enough media says.
No, that's true.
So I did like that. I like that it's emphasized, Thomas, that's not like a character flaw of yours.
Katie at this point said the best thing the Fab Five could do is just
man.
get him a hooker.
I was waiting. I was waiting for Katie's input on this.
Yeah. She says just get him a hooker, get it over with, and then he won't have the problems anymore.
Which, could be true. He
Takes
could be
way less
Thomas
than
the
7
Tank
days.
Engine for one night. Jonathan does get Thomas pretty spiffed up, though, if we're being honest. Spencer mentioned it earlier. He trims that beard down to just
Thank
the
God.
slightest of stubble. The hair gets really tight knit, and I really liked the curls that they get into Thomas's hair. He looks really suave, and it is a little bit Donald Glover-like.
He looked a lot better. I will give him that.
I mean, He did look good, and they dress him well to accentuate the right parts. And I mean, we'll get more into that shortly, though. But before we get into Thomas's wardrobe more and his fashion choices that he's about to make, let's get into what it's like for Thomas to go out in the world. Because Karamo and Bobby have a special event planned for Thomas that they think can crack through that tough exterior. And that's that they're going to take him to an outdoor meeting of a club. They do this by first encouraging him to get dressed up in a nice, smooth, black dress shirt. And the goal here is Thomas is more likely to be able to go talk to strangers if it's strangers with similar interests, which is why he's talking to the Kansas City, what is this, the Kansas City Japanese Anime Club?
Yeah.
I think it was, all mushed into one.
It's all like mushed into one phrase. Essentially. Thomas arrives at this outdoor event with Bobby and Karamo in tow to encourage him and root him on, and he kind of just shuffles up to a table and introduces himself, but that doesn't really go very well. He runs back to the safety of Bobby and Karamo.
I'm gonna get some food. He's
Yeah.
all panicky.
He
movie
awkwardly
did he
says
mention
he'll
he
get some
watched?
food. That's later.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Okay.
but,
That's
but I
when
know what you're talking about.
his shell starts to crack.
Okay.
So, yeah, Thomas goes back and gets psyched up a little more. Bobby and Karamo tell him just bring up some common interests. This
I
is
love
the
that
anime
this
club.
group has this camera crew there watching
Yeah.
them all, and they're like, let's totally act natural and welcome this guy into our group here.
And they do, because when Thomas just, again, awkwardly shuffles and ambles his way back up to the table, everyone's a little more talkative this time, and they start talking about their interests. A very large soul patch man asked Thomas if he's into anime. The group starts talking about the sorts of things that you would think that a group of dorks might talk about if you drew these subjects out of a hat. Among those mentioned are World of Warcraft, Mario Kart, Doctor Who, and then Thomas, as Van was saying, mentions seeing the movie Sorry to Bother You, which is awesome. And I don't know how much you'd like that movie in reality if you were super into your job, which Thomas is, but whatever.
Is that the David Cross voice
Yes.
one?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, it's I haven't watched it, but it sounds kind of
It is good.
interesting,
Yeah,
for sure.
it's really
It's a
good
very,
movie.
very good movie. But, you can dare to dream if you're in the Kansas City Japanese Anime Club, can't you?
So just go in there and connect. Talk about what you know.
My dream costume is to build a full set of power armor.
I've heard both of you say that same thing so many times, I can't even count.
I mean, so this girl wants to take over the world.
Yeah.
She's going to have her Fallout 4 power armor she's going to put on and lay waste to the wasteland in Boston.
But that's
Good
the
for her.
situation. Yeah, good for her. And this is one of the many people that Thomas gets a chance to interact with. They seem like very nice nerds that we would probably all get along with.
I think
fine.
it'd be fine, but in that setting, the way they forced him into it, it couldn't possibly work.
That's the part, yeah, it would be, my heart would probably pop out of my body of having to just approach 30 strangers and just say, hello, my name's Brian, what do you like?
I think I would do well there. It would again, it's getting me there and forcing me into the thing.
Now, remember,
but if they
you've
say,
got-
go do it, I'll do great.
You've got a couple of the Fab Five watching you in camera crews.
All right,
doesn't
what,
bother me.
are you sober?
Never.
Okay, now I
That's
understand.
usually the case. No, I genuinely think I would do fine because it's always getting there. Once I'm there, doesn't matter if I know people, doesn't matter if I don't know people, I'll do fine. I can get along with just about anybody. If you irritate me or whatever, like if that Jonathan Van Ness guy's there, I'm just going to walk away from him. If he's the person I'm supposed to talk to and I realize this isn't compatible, I will get away. I know better.
Thomas does okay. He acquits himself
He's fine. He's
from
fine.
what we see. And we get another title card. It's the day of, guys. It's day 4. Level up. And we're back at Thomas and Chrissy's house. Everybody's kind of just around. There's a certain energy. Every single person who we've seen so far is hugging one another seemingly at once. And we're preparing for the big day. Thomas is going to go to his party, but first the Fab Five have to get him ready. Jonathan, we see him first. He's wearing a dress shirt that's seems to have been made for the Jolly Green Giant. It's like a head-to-toe dress shirt robe thing, and he's got snakeskin boots on. And he has his twirly mustache. And at this point, there's something you'd have to be able to even put that on alone. A certain confidence.
Let me tell you exactly the kind of person Jonathan is. He's the kind of person that takes 6.5 hours to get ready to go to anything, ever. Have either of you dated people like that?
A little bit, but
Uh-huh.
not much.
Exclusively.
I can't handle it. I could not handle that because they're always late. I mean, universally late to whatever they're going to because it's like, oh, we're supposed to be there at 6. Well, at 6 o'clock, that's when they start curling their hair or whatever. And I can't handle that. That's incompatible with me for sure.
So you're saying you would not date Jonathan Van Ness?
In this case, no. Who would you date of the 5? Who's your favorite?
Oh, man.
I mean,
Bobby's the most get it done guy. Like he's actually practical. He knows stuff, so I could learn from him. I date him.
they're all fairly handsome.
They're good looking
They're in
guys.
great shape. They're in great shape. They're articulate. They're qualified. I respect them all, but for the most part, their personalities are just shut up right now, please.
It's the 3 on the left for me. I would date one of them. Anthony,
Van is referring to our printout.
Yes.
I like Bobby. I'm not dating Crummo. He doesn't know shit, and he acts like he does, and that's bullshit.
I think it would be Anthony because I have a history of getting into really mentally unstable relationships. And I think that this would be one.
I thought maybe you wanted to learn to cook one meal, and only one meal.
And only one meal, yeah.
Never
Next
more
year
than
on your
that.
birthday, we'll teach you a second one.
But see, I could watch Dodgers games with Karamo.
Yeah, that's true. But then he'd give you a bunch of advice, and you'd know he was full of shit.
Yeah, that's true.
If
It's
the
really
Dodgers
tough.
would only put a bunch of crates in the field.
And Tan's got his fucking... He's full of himself, I think.
Oh, he's the worst.
I think he's a little...
yeah.
I think you think Jonathan's the worst.
I do, but I also really don't care for Tan. At least Jonathan knows what he is and leans into it.
He's a sweet guy. He means well. You know, he's just very... I don't know. Jonathan means well. That's all I can say.
Well, all of them kind of mean well because we've talked about it.
They're nice guys, right?
Thousands of dollars remodeling. Well, Netflix probably
That's
did.
Bobby. Bobby paid that out of his own pocket.
Remodeling Thomas and Chrissy's house. We get to see that now.
It's amazing.
And Thomas is pretty amazed by it. The Fab Five have added anime accent art, new lamps. They've revamped the bedroom. They painted the kitchen.
So many Japanese things in their house.
Well, also the other thing they do, I think they do this on the show too much, is they go, "What do you like?" to the person, and the person goes, "I don't know, I kind of like this," and they go, "Oh, okay, well the whole show's about that now."
Yeah, it's like how my mom collected little ceramic rabbits, and then that's all anyone would buy her, and she's like, "No, but not like that."
Yeah,
like
It's
I
just,
like other
this
things. I
one
have
thing.
so much space in my home only. You can't give me this many rabbits.
You need a whole room for ceramic rabbits. Why not?
And this is kind of this is a mirror situation of earlier in the show where we saw what Thomas's house looked like before. We see how everything is now. The backyard is nuts. There's a dining table / ping pong table, lots of cool lighting and seating. I would love to hang out in that backyard.
Bobby's saying, like, you can eat on the ping pong table, too, like in between sets.
He's very proud of himself.
And he should be. It looks amazing.
Do you want to play, Thomas? I'll fucking annihilate you. Who do you think of the Fab Five as the best ping pong player? Bramo?
Yeah, probably. He's the biggest. He can cover more ground.
Yeah, he looks super athletic.
But I think Jonathan has so much energy. He'd play for hours.
You couldn't wear him
I'm
out.
not sure that Karamo doesn't like double as an NFL player on the side. He just looks so trim and athletic, and he could do anything. He's a very sleek guy. Doesn't know anything about psychology, but whatever else he can do. I'm sure
fake it till you make it.
That's right.
Thomas is fucking pumped about this house. Chrissy shows up soon, and she is too. She's blown
like,
away.
now I can leave.
Yeah, now I can fucking leave Missouri, which we've all felt before.
And you've done.
Yeah, but here I am, right, guys?
You know, good for you, by the way. You're the only one of us that's gotten away.
You've seen the world. I don't know.
Like Spencer and I have gotten a Neo show and Roger.
Yeah, not very far. Not far enough.
Hey, one day once Boob Tube Boys signs that big deal, we're all moving to LA or something. I don't know where we're going. The house looks really awesome. What about Thomas, though? We got to get him looking awesome. Thomas, at this point, is fired up enough to tell everyone that, he's not a sloth anymore. He's a lion. Roar!
Is this where he tells Chrissy, fuck you? Fuck
He
you,
says,
I can take care of
Chrissy,
myself?
fuck you, I've never needed you. I'm glad Mom's dead.
Get out.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he rips his shirt off like
I'm gonna
Hulk
eat your
Hogan.
steak,
Of
too.
course, the real thing is, Chrissy, don't worry about me. I'm okay.
Yeah,
But,
I'm gonna be totally fine. First, though,
I cooked you a steak.
before Thomas gets going, we got to get him ready. Jonathan says it's time to zhuzh it up. I don't know what that is. He says it a couple of times, but I think it just means get ready. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
He shows Thomas how to apply facial cream and a lip mask.
Couple of dots on your head so it doesn't dry out or something.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Anthony gives us a little glimpse of that fridge, which is full of uncovered hunks of meat that are
Cook
already
these-
pre-seasoned for Thomas.
Cook these immediately or they will kill you.
Yeah. And then there's a little conversation about unlocking Thomas's charisma, which is not like unlocking a waterfall in the desert.
That's the whole like no one's really an introvert thing. There is like,
Yeah.
don't worry, you can just be, you can have a personality and everyone will like you.
You can be what we tell you to be.
And they send Thomas off with a bunch of hugs. And that's when we go into
And spy cameras.
our final sequence. Yes, the new Thomas from Sloth to Slay. So every episode has this, and this is where the guys, the Fab Five, prepare the meal that we've talked about in the
Eat
episode.
and watch a person's life. It's so weird.
And they voyeuristically watch hidden camera footage of the person's big day and some, in some cases, very personal confessions. It's a regular Robert Durst situation.
Not Fred Durst,
Yeah.
though, fortunately.
So the Fab Five gather around, they make steak and sprouts, and they obsess over a tiny dog named Bruley that eventually
love
sets
that
off
dog.
a feud at the very end of the episode between a couple of the Fab Five. Jonathan's wearing overalls. I just had that in my notes to mention to you guys.
He's a farmer, too.
Yes.
I wonder what Tan thought of that.
And we get to witness Thomas's big day. He cooks his meal for Chrissy. She's really, really impressed. Thomas goes into the bathroom afterwards, sponges his hair. He accidentally wipes off all the moisturizer after putting it on. The guys are a little
They're
puzzled by that.
disgusted with
Yeah.
it, but also you spent a week with the guy. How he doesn't know any of this?
This isn't his forte.
They're like, who could ever do that?
Is it
who
Jonathan
knows?
makes one of them put it on and then take it off?
Yeah,
Fine.
I'm certain that it is.
Fine, you
I'm sure it
motherfucker. Like he's all pissed off at him.
I wouldn't
Fuck
know
you,
how the
Thomas.
hell to use it. I'd mush it in my face and walk away. That's all
You
I'd do.
tamp it down into your pores.
Inject it straight into your face, into your eyeball.
Thomas gets dressed. He's got a sweet camo jacket. And that is when he heads off to the barcade.
Oh, man.
Chrissy's got a surprise, though. She's got a party bus full of her friends. Presumably, Thomas has met some of them. He introduces himself to the ones he doesn't know. They're all glad-handing. They arrive at the barcade. And that's when things start going well for Thomas.
The orgy.
Yeah. Everybody fucks and sits on some joysticks on top of the arcade machines.
Sounds great.
No, Thomas is really classy now, and everybody can pick up on it. Everybody at the barcade is fawning over Thomas. One girl won't leave his side. The Fab Five notice this right away, and they think she's cute even.
Jonathan loves that. He's like, she will not leave his side.
No. Thomas invites her to the bar, let's get a drink, and she says yes. So at this point, I'm noticing Thomas is really confident. Like, I think this is working. He's super confident. He's
just
animated.
It was pretty much just like, hey, baby, you want to get out
Yeah.
of here?
I
That's
love,
what
it's
it
like, now
was.
that I am 21, do you want to get a drink at the bar?
Well, no, they cut to one of those like talking heads with him, and he's like jacked up. He's like, "This is great. This is a great night. You know,
So
I'm
you
having
believe
fun
that
talking
part,
to these
then?
people." Well, I did. I was starting to become a little bit of a convert, and then I remembered where we were. Thomas is drunk, you guys. Of course, his charisma's been unlocked.
Liquid charisma.
Of course, he's inviting girls to go to the bar and get a drink with him. It's not real Thomas. It's drunk confidence Thomas.
Now he's an alcoholic. That's the bad story of this Fab Five thing.
Yeah, and I don't know how the episode really ends. I choose to believe that Thomas and this girl went home and they went like 5 rounds, I think.
Oh, for like,
yeah. I think,
Tantric,
yeah,
like
and Thomas
crazy.
never even deflated. I mean, he was just rock hard the whole time.
He's like, hey, baby,
Never
you
felt a
like
thing.
tater tots?
Oh, so yeah, that's pretty much the episode, except for one more thing, which is we found out that Thomas made a change on his spirit animal. He's a lion now, he's on a sloth. And I was kind of curious about this. What are the Fab Five's spirit animals? And we get to hear all of the Fab Five spirit animals, including Karamo, who's a peacock, Tan, who's a panther, Jonathan, who's a springbok, and then a little bit of a war begins to emerge between Anthony and Bobby.
Oh, they want the same one.
My spirit animal is a corgi.
No.
I don't know why Anthony loves corgis so much. But according to the spirit animal map, mine's corgi.
My spirit animal today is an adolescent corgi, a tricolor, sitting in a really comfy little plush bed, just resting near a fireplace, and a nice soft pillow with a little blanket, just being a happy pupper.
Anthony is such a one-upper. Bobby's just trying to get in there and say his spirit animal's a corgi. And Anthony's like, mine is a corgi with 7 adjectives beforehand.
I'll cook you a meal at a nice restaurant.
What is with corgi love? I don't find corgis more or less cute or fascinating than other dogs.
I think it's okay. So
Is it the stupid stumpy legs?
it is. It's like how it's very similar to my pug love that I have, in that it's just you look at it and you can't help but smile. And it's now that I choose to unveil a fact about my late father that I don't believe either of you know. And that is that in his later years, he owned a corgi whose name was Shadow.
I did not know this.
It was a tiny corgi. It was really, really cool. One time he yelled at it because it pooped in the corner while staring at him.
Did he name it Shadow?
No, my
Okay.
stepbrother Zach named the dog Shadow.
Because I really wish Charlie was like, I'm going to name it Shadow. Why'd you name it that, Charlie?
That's-
Because, I really like Shadow the Hedgehog, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Because that one time I pooped in the corner, I didn't see it. Well, I didn't see it real well.
I had no one's eyes to look deep into as I was pooping.
And that's why I figure, what's a good way to kind of recap this episode for us, for the three of us as hosts of Boob Tube Boys? Let's talk about our spirit animals. Vans, what's your spirit animal?
Cheetah. We've
That's
done this
right.
already.
We've done
Cheetah.
that on the quiz. I was kind of hoping for some different answers that weren't a pre-selected batch of 5 animals.
Yeah,
we could
you
choose
piece
from.
of shit.
It's
Yeah.
always been Cheetah, no matter what.
You're fired,
I'm not
Spencer.
changing.
Oh, you're firing him. Wow. I guess it's just the Boob Tube Boys.
This is a reality show
-1.
now.
Yeah. Well, ooh. Are you talking about The Apprentice? Do we need to...
You're fired.
Yeah, soon I'll be president and I'll ruin the world.
I would say now because I'm super wise.
That's a very
You
good
even
one.
hooted a little bit in response.
Well, you also eat voles all the time.
I didn't think about this myself before asking you guys the question.
Wow, that was
Yeah.
ballsy. I
So
like
I'm
it.
going to do a total.
At least I had a fucking answer.
Total Bobby Anthony, and I'm going to say pug.
I wish you'd said corgi.
I'll breathe heavy and I'll sit around and eat. And that's
Sounds
what I'm
fine.
going to do
I
with
like
my
it.
time.
Occasionally your eyeballs pop out.
Yeah. We're going to be back next week with another episode of Queer Eye and the announcement of the show that
Oh,
Van
man.
is going to have to cover. I picked
can't
for
wait.
him.
I can't wait.
But before that, we'll let you know where to find us. The show is on Instagram and Twitter at Boob Tube Boys. You can read articles we write on boobtubeboys.com. You can also find us all individually on Twitter. I'm at Loud Guitar Brian. Van, what are you?
At Manly Van Lee.
Spencer.
I'm at the number 3 French_hen.
Yeah. So that's it for Boob Tube Boys this week. If you need any fashion advice, you know where to find us.
Not us.